Welcome in, Majestic Dirt. You were gone for like half a year. That's okay. Welcome back. It's a 17-year-old baby. Welcome in. Can I get an audio check? Do I sound okay? Can you hear me and the game? Let me know if I gotta adjust anything. Sound Gucci? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Same with the game. Excellent, excellent. How are you doing, though? The four of us cousins were enjoying our stories, just shooting the breeze. Anyway, there were both girls and guys here. Plus, we had people over a wide spread of ages. Adult, high school, and elementary school. And okay, exams are on Thursday, but that's okay. Ooh, good luck with your exams! I'm sure you'll do great. I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little eepy today, but that's okay. I'm excited to get more into the plot of Umineko. Ready for some stuff to happen. Even if we just talked about our own lives, the other three kept listening attentively. Thank you, I hope you rest up after stream. I will. I plan to take a nap. I think I'm finally getting used to all this. Jessica and Maria have grown more than I could have imagined in the past 6 years. To be honest, I was feeling a bit uncomfortable, but talking like this, I guess that on the inside, nothing's really changed since back then. I agree. You haven't changed a bit, even after 6 years. Even though your body's gotten gigantic, you're still a kid inside.
Ooh, I'm a kid too! I'm a kid too!
Well, even you aren't gonna be a kid forever, are you, Maria? I mean, you're gonna transform from a kid into a cute young lady, aren't ya? And when that happens, that flat-as-a-board chest will reach Jessica's level, huh? She's a child! Leave her alone. Arrest this man. When that happens, you gotta let me touch him, okay? It's a promise. Yeah, whoa, arrest this man!
Ooh, let you touch him.
No!
Promise! Ooh!
No, Maria-chan. You can't make that kind of promise. That's bad, bad!
Ooh? I promised, so I'll let him touch him. I keep my promises. Always keep them. Ooh!
Maria, you really are an earnest good girl. The guy you marry's gonna be really lucky. Hey! Stop trying to change the subject by making it sound pretty. Maria, that promise never happened. Never.
The promise is cancelled?
As I thought, without Battler-kun in our little quartet, this group of cousins just didn't feel complete. We're just moving on? Hello? These 6 years have been kind of lonely. That's true. We didn't really goof off like this. Still, we did have some pretty good constructive conversations, right? Stuff about preparing for our future, exam taking, finding jobs. Oh, I'm so sorry. Now that I'm here, we just talk about stupid stuff and mess around. I don't know, man. Ignoring that kind of sentence is risky. That's what I mean! Like, they're just gonna overlook that? She's 9! I think. There's not options. Stop. Married. Oh, you say don't have her age. I'm pretty sure she's like 9, though.
But I'm having more fun this year. Ooh.
That's true. I agree. This year's the most fun yet. Maria's sincere words probably spoke for everyone present. George Aniki stroked Maria's head, and she giggled like a happy kitten. I didn't know that kittens giggled, but okay. Pardon me. Your meal is ready. A timid knocking sound and the equally timid voice of a young woman came through the door.
Meow, meow, meow.
Yeah? Jessica answered brightly. Shannon, come in! You remember Battler, right? Jessica stood up from the bed and opened the door. There stood a servant girl who must have been about our age. It's been quite some time since we last met, Battler-sama. It's nice to see you after 6 years. It's me, Shannon. Trembling a little as she noticed me, she bowed deeply. Ah! Jessica had me surprised, but look at you, Shannon-chan. You've turned into a total beauty too, haven't you? You're too kind. Still, the food on this island must be really nutritional, huh? What are you eating and how are you training to get boobs that big? Oh! Horrible. Get him out of here. Guess I'll have to feel him a bit and see whether yours or Jessica's are bigger, okay? With both hands poised and saliva dribbling from my mouth, I closed in. Who is this perv? His name is Battler, and arrest him. For the sake of justice and my personal honor, I'd like to point out that I don't suffer from some strange disease that makes my lymph nodes itch until I scratch my neck open, which can only be prevented by fondling breasts. I was gonna say Hinamizawa syndrome, but the last part, This is just a Battler-style method of communication. If I slowly close in on her like this, the odds are 8 or 9 out of 10 that I get slapped or clobbered, right? So, I can use this Battler-sama original technique to spark a gag like that and break the ice. Well, it also means I really do get to touch them on that 1 in 10 chance though, right? Yeah, like that never happened. At that point, my hands were less than a centimeter away from Shannon-chan's boobs, but the counterstrike had yet to come. She blushed and lowered her head in embarrassment when she realized what was going on, but she just stood there with both hands politely joined in front of her, not even trying to resist or cover her breasts. I'd rather keep it PG, but it feels like a PDF. Grr, I know, like... Get him out of here. Just get him out of here. Hey, I wasn't planning on this. Please, hit me right now or I'm seriously gonna... Yeah, get him. Which is why I was glad that Jessica chose that time to drive her elbow into the back of my head. Gah! Ow! Thank you so much, Jessica! Why the hell are you thanking me? Seriously, my bad, Shannon-chan. I almost got overwhelmed by your hypnotic chest. More importantly, anyone who gets that close has gotta be a molester. You gotta fight back when people do that. But you're an important guest, Battler-sama. Now look here. A pervert's a pervert whether he's a guest or not. A girl's chest has got an air defense identification range of about 10 centimeters or so. Why are they acting like they couldn't pull off excuses? I don't know what is wrong with Battler, but as of right now, I do not trust this man. I don't trust him at all. Once someone trespasses within 2 centimeters, that's already an invasion of airspace, so you'd better scramble the jets immediately and give him an instant slap. I couldn't do such a thing, because we're, furniture. Of course, she didn't want her breasts touched, but if a guest so desired, she was prepared to sacrifice herself to suit their wants. He looks like ReZero's Reinhardt if he was an evil knight. I don't know if I saw that character when I watched. Let me see. Do I recognize him? I don't think I do. But he kinda does. A girl like this needs some urgent protection. To think that such devoted girls still existed in this era, it's enough to make a man dizzy. But no. No! I'm coming at you with a perverted face again. Knock me down! Look out! Pervert on the loose! From what? This gag can't end until you deliver the punchline, so slap me! Please! Hit me! Why does bro want to be hit so bad? I cannot fulfill your request, because I'm furniture. But if it were an order, I'd obey you. He finds it hot, doesn't he? He probably does. Because that is my duty. Then I'll make it an order. The next time Battler-kun tries to touch your breasts, counterattack with a slap. Got it? Yes. As you wish. From now on, that is what I'll do. Please understand, Battler-sama. Shannon-chan announced this while bowing elegantly to me. Her expression was radiant. I gave her a thumbs up to show I was fine with that. 6 years ago, you might have been mistaken for a servant's daughter who lent a hand at your parents' work. But now you're a full-fledged adult servant. How long have you been working here? Well, I've had the pleasure of serving this household for about 10 years. She's Shannon. The kanji for her name are read as Shannon. Now here's another name that's far from typical for a Japanese person. Back in the day, I was a kid myself, so I accepted her name without paying it much attention. Thinking about it now, though, her name's pretty unusual, even though she's not a member of the Ushiromiya family. Maybe it's like a servant's professional name or something. If so, that might explain why her name is so similar to Kanon-kun, that kid I met earlier in the Rose Garden. She's a long-term servant who's served here since she was 6 years old. Her appearance had changed so much that I couldn't match her. Her appearance had changed so much that I couldn't match her to the person of my memories, but we both knew each other 6 years ago. That shy part of her has always been there, but she did seem to have developed the allure you'd expect of a girl her age. Especially in her breasts. Yes. That kid we met earlier, Kanon-kun, is her little brother. He's not exactly my little brother. Still, he loves me like a big sister. He didn't cause you any trouble, did he? He's the same as always. If only he were just a bit more sociable. Did not need to add the chest part, but okay, that's what I mean. Bro brings it up whenever. I apologize if he's caused you any trouble. Nah, he didn't cause any trouble at all. As a fellow man, I understand how moody you can get at that age. It's no surprise he's unsociable.
Ooh, I get called that all the time, too. I get called unsociable. Just like Kanon. Ooh.
You aren't unsociable at all, Maria-sama.
Wanted to be like him.
You said the meal was ready, right? Yes. I'm sorry. Your meal has been fully prepared, so please allow me to guide you all to the mansion. Shannon bowed again formally and returned to her duty mode. We realized that if we made her stick around for any more light conversation, it would actually make it harder for her to do her job. We got up off our butts to avoid interfering with her work any further. So, shall we go to the mansion? Everyone's probably hungry, right? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Gora-san's food. That guy was apparently a chef at this famous hotel, so he's super good at cooking. I am, you're hungry. Is it time for lunch for you? Ooh, I can't wait. Let's go, Maria. We're gonna stuff ourselves like pigs.
Ooh, stuff ourselves like pigs.
No. You can't take everything Battler-kun says seriously, okay? Dinner, but I already ate. Oh. Hopefully you can eat again soon then. Something yummy. Because he's always just joking around. Okay, let's go. Under Shannon-chan's guidance, we headed towards the mansion. Met once again by the magnificent Rose Garden, we continued onward, as the intimidating mansion of the Ushiromiya head family came into view. It had apparently been built shortly after the war, so you could feel the dignity of almost a half-century hanging about it. The building was gorgeous on the surface, but old as it was, equipment such as its AC and heating were apparently quite frail. According to Jessica, midwinter was especially tough, what with all the drafts. Haven't these people ever heard of a kotatsu? As we entered the entrance hall, an aged servant greeted us. Now him I remembered. Genji-san, who had been working here longer than anyone, filled the role of head servant. Wait, we have some, Servant Shannon, a young but experienced servant. She's normally calm and performs her job efficiently, but she messes up when she gets nervous. Furthermore, Shannon is nothing more than a pseudonym that she uses when on duty, not her real name. Servant Genji, the leader of the servants who work for the Ushiromiya family. He has served Kinzo longer than any other and is the person most trusted by that old man. Since he serves Kinzo directly, Kraus and Natsuhi think of him as being a spy for Kinzo. Slim Shady Butler. Battler-sama, has been quite some time since we last met. As our eyes met, he greeted me with a calm, composed voice. His bow wasn't as graceful or refined as Goda's, but despite its simplicity, it communicated his feelings very well. Genji-san, it really has been a while. You look well. Thank you. I have been quite well. And Battler-sama, you've become a splendid young man. You're beginning to resemble the master in his youth. I look like grandfather? Guess that means grandfather was pretty popular with the ladies when he was young. From here on, I shall take Shannon's place and accompany you. Please, come this way. Shannon-chan bowed deeply and watched us leave. After that, we headed towards the dining room under Genji-san's guidance. Genji-san, just like Kumasawa-san, stood in stark contrast to us young people who had grown beyond recognition over the last 6 years. His appearance was exactly the same as in my memories from 6 years ago. Ladies, ladies this, ladies that, knock it off. He thinks he's popular, but I'm fairly certain in the first part of the story, he told his aunt that he's not very popular with the ladies, or at least, like, he hasn't gone out with all too many, so take that, Battler. It was as though time had stopped since the last time we met. Genji-san was an extremely quiet and diligent person. He was basically grandfather's close aide or caregiver, and you might even call him grandfather's companion of many years. In fact, it seems he was by grandfather's side even more often than my late grandmother was. According to Jessica, grandfather trusted him more than any of his blood relatives. But I wonder how long he's served. I never got the details, but I heard something about him being here since the very beginning, when this mansion was first constructed. Which would mean that he's dedicated half his life to serving here. It's easy to see why he's so trusted. As we passed through a massive hall that extended up into the second story of the mansion with no separating floor, I spotted something that hadn't existed in my memory of 6 years ago. If that's the case, this building isn't that old. Yeah, it's like 40 years, maybe, at most. A portrait. Is this Beatrice? It was an awfully big portrait hanging right in front of the stairs that rose to the second floor. Without thinking, I stopped walking, captivated by it. Since I'd stopped so fast, Maria, who was following behind me, ran into my back. Sorry. Hey, Jessica, has that picture always been there? I pointed at the big, prominently displayed portrait in the hall. Everyone else stopped too. Oh, right. When you last came here, that hadn't been hung yet, had it? When was it again? Well, if my memory doesn't fail me, it was put on display sometime around the year before last. Ronoe Genji. Okay. You are correct, sir. In April of the year before last, the master put it on display there, having previously ordered a painter to create it. Grandfather did that? So he paid to have it painted just for him, huh? The portrait suited this Western mansion, and that woman in the elegant dress gave off a sense of refinement. I couldn't have guessed her age, but her sharp eyes and the strong will she seemed to possess made her look youthful. She seemed somehow different from the composed, middle-aged women you often see in famous pictures. If she'd had normal black hair, I might have assumed it was a portrait of my long-deceased grandmother in her prime. However, she had beautiful blonde hair and didn't look Japanese at all. So, just who is this lady? Maria answered this simple question enthusiastically, as though proud she knew the answer.
I know. She's Beatrice.
What? Beatrice. She's a witch. Didn't you ever hear stories about her long ago? Witch? Beet and rice. You mean the witch of this island? I think I already said this, but Rokkenjima is a small island, only 10 kilometers in circumference. However, that's actually pretty massive, considering that only the Ushiromiya family lives here. So, only the harbor and the area around the mansion were set up to be lived in. Beyond that, the island remained as untouched as when it was uninhabited. The vast and empty forest had absolutely no lights, phones, or people passing through. A whole island? Yeah, they're rich. To understand how dangerous that is, you need to forget your common sense as a city dweller. After all, if you happen to fall down a hole in the depths of the forest and sprain your ankle, no one would come and save you, no matter how much you cried or screamed. Then, once the sun went down, the forest would be wrapped in complete darkness, since there were no streetlights. And, since there were no signs, it'd be easy to get lost and confused, losing your sense of direction inside that dark forest. Nowadays, most people see a forest as a peaceful place. But to the people of bygone eras, before the light of civilization drove out the night, forests were as geographically separated from civilization as the sea. They were oceans above the ground. Fishermen who would go out into the ocean are putting their lives at risk, despite their technical knowledge. In the same way, hunters who go out to the forest are in danger, despite having specialized knowledge of their own. If children were to go play in such a dangerous forest, something terrible might happen. Someone's parents must have thought so. Maybe grandmother first said it, or maybe it was grandfather himself. Or perhaps the story's been passed down on this island since ancient times. There's a terrible witch in the forest, so you must not go in. At some point, this ghost story of Rokkenjima was born. This is the legend of Rokkenjima's witch. That's why, when we talk about a witch on this island, we're referring to the master of that vast and savage forest. Come to think of it, when I stayed at this mansion as a little kid, during those eerie nights when the wind and rain pounded on the windows, I remember being terrified by a story of the forest witch, who roamed around searching for human sacrifices. So, Beatrice, huh? When Aniki mentioned it, I searched my memory, and was sure I recalled hearing a name like that when I was little. I see. Still, I totally forgot that the witch in that legend had an elegant name like Beatrice. So, did grandfather go out of his way to have a portrait made just because we grandchildren didn't believe the story? Scary, honestly, I wouldn't go in there even without the forest story. I mean, that's probably smart. She's the witch from grandfather's delusions. Ever since he had that picture hanged, he's been having a harder and harder time telling the difference between truth and fantasy. To us, she's just a witch that exists in grandfather's mind. But to him, she's a being that exists on this island. Exists. He says he had that painting made because the rest of us would be incapable of understanding otherwise. The whole thing's creepy as hell. Lady, this portrait is precious to the master. I beg of you, do not say such things in front of him. I know. Even if you didn't tell me, I'd never do something like that. Jessica glanced at the portrait with an irritated gaze before turning away. Let's go. We're making everyone wait in the dining room.
Ugh, I'm hungry.
Only a small portion of this island was controlled by the Ushiromiya family. All of the lawless remainder was the domain of the witch, Beatrice. You might even call her the true ruler of Rokkenjima. I felt a faint revival of that unsettling sense of misfortune, which I'd felt when I learned of the tutelary god's shrine being struck by lightning. And I remembered that Kumasawa-san tried to tell us an ominous story about Rokkenjima, before Jessica stopped her. I don't know what she was planning to tell us about this island, but I do know one thing. It isn't the Ushiromiya family that rules Rokkenjima. It's the witch, Beatrice. That's right. After all, this is the witch's island.
Battler! Ooh, you're slow.
When I looked around, everyone was already heading towards the dining room. I hurriedly chased after them. We walked up to the huge double doors that led to the dining room. Genji-san knocked. I brought the children. Please pardon the intrusion. The doors were opened, and we were invited inside. The dining room, which looked exactly like you'd imagine a rich person's dining room to be, had a super long table that was obviously positioned with no purpose other than to make the guests conscious of their rank. Our parents were already sitting in accordance with that ordering. "You're late, brats. Hurry up and take a seat." The old man pressed us to sit. The only gaps in that group of people were the spots we were supposed to sit, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the head of the table, called the incipience chair, was for the most highly ranked, reserved for grandfather. It was still empty. He probably wanted to show up last for dramatic effect. From the perspective of someone facing the incipience chair head-on, the seating order went from left to right, with the lower-ranking seats progressing in rows of 2 further away from it. The table is empty, yeah. I guess they didn't want to draw everybody in, because sometimes this room is empty. So the left-hand side of the first row, closest to the incipience chair, was where Uncle Cross should have sat, since he was the second highest in rank. It looked like he hadn't arrived yet, so that seat was empty. Across from his chair, on the right side of the first row, sat the eldest daughter of the family, Aunt Eva, who was the third highest in rank. Left-hand side of the second row was for the fourth highest in rank. There sat my dad, Rudolph, the third of the siblings. Across from him, on the right side of the second row, sat Aunt Rosa, the youngest sibling. At this point, you might expect their husbands and wives to come next. But nope. The left-hand seat in the third row, rank number 6, belonged to Jessica. Opposite her was George Aniki. I sat next to Jessica, and Maria sat across from me. Then, finally, next to me on the left-hand side of the 5th row, sat Aunt Natsuhi, the 10th highest in rank. Opposite her was Uncle Hideyoshi. Next to Aunt Natsuhi, in the 6th row and the final seat on the left-hand side, sat Kirie-san. The seat opposite to Kirie-san was empty, even though silverware had been set there and everything. According to the ranking system, that spot was where Aunt Rosa's husband should be sitting. Even though he wasn't supposed to be coming, his place was made up. Normally, ranking systems of this sort gave spouses equal positions as their partners, but the Ushiromiya family system was unique. Maybe it's a remnant of male chauvinism. If you start with the assumption that a woman's womb is just something to be borrowed, then the children of direct descent would come first, directly followed by the grandchildren. In other words, spouses have no blood ties and are therefore placed at the end of the line. It's terrible, but by this system, my grandmother would be ranked even lower than me if she were still alive. In their youth, they obeyed their father. After they get married, their husband. After aging, their children. There's the old saying, women have no home in any realm. Long ago, when I was still incapable of figuring all this out, I thought it was so great that we could all chat in our little groups, adult siblings with adult siblings and cousins with cousins. However, now that I can re-examine the seating order after growing up a bit, it stirs up some very complicated feelings in me. Aunt Natsuhi, who was married to the eldest son and was the de facto number 2 in managing this family, sat to my right, which meant that she was 2 steps lower than me in the ranking order. Sadly, this is still present at some households. I know, yeah. And, he says the thing about, women not being very high in rank, but Eva's all the way up near the head of the table. So, it's not all of them. It's just the bloodline. So I feel like it's a little different. It was hard to imagine what might be going on inside her heart. That's why I made a small apologetic gesture towards her before sitting down. Oh, nice to see you, Battler-kun. You've grown quite tall, haven't you? Oh, yep. 6 long years of eating well, sampling various cuisines, and deriving sustenance from Mother Earth's bountiful gifts. Hard work, but I pulled through. Growing just like a boy, I see. How tall are you now? I guess about 180 centimeters? But, Aunt Natsuhi, that's where you're supposed to say, heck, sounds like all you did was eat. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. After a short pause, she did laugh with me, but it seemed she couldn't quite figure out what she was supposed to be laughing at. This woman is Aunt Natsuhi. Ushiromiya Natsuhi, Cross's wife. She manages the household of the Ushiromiya head family in place of her husband, who takes little interest in such matters. She was in charge of all preparations and arrangements for this family conference. I'm still smaller, what the heck? It's okay, me too. She possesses a strong sense of responsibility and a great deal of pride. However, neither her husband nor his siblings understand her very well, so her position is far from enviable. She's the wife of the eldest son of the family, meaning she's my father's older brother's wife. Is it simpler if I just call her Jessica's mother? It feels bad to say it like this, but while I didn't exactly dislike her, I didn't particularly like her either. She hardly ever spoke with us kids, and all my memories of her involve her talking to the adults about complicated things with a scary look on her face. In fact, since we hardly ever exchanged words, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I should approach her. Though my efforts seemed to have ended in failure. The silverware sat neatly on the table, but the meal itself hadn't been brought in yet. As a general rule, you couldn't start a meal until the person sitting at the head of the table arrived. So, as long as grandfather didn't come, lunch would be put on hold indefinitely. Not even the appetizers would arrive. Simply put, the silence in this room was caused by our parents enduring their hunger while they waited for grandfather to arrive. However, the grandfather from my memories would always show up on time to meals like this. He was the kind of person who would never be so late that it kept everyone waiting, especially after the entire group had arrived. Grandfather's pretty late. As far as I can remember, he was always strict about time. Well, that might have been true 6 years ago, but it hasn't been that way lately. In fact, he's off in his own little world so often that he doesn't even show up at family meals. Still, I figured he'd at least come down today. Then again, I feel a lot more relaxed and happy without him. Jessica. When her mother scolded her, Jessica stuck her tongue out and looked away. No way around it. Might as well wait until our host arrives. When I glanced at the clock, I saw that it was almost 12:20. Ushiromiya Kinzo, the aged family head of the Ushiromiya head family. Ushiromiya Kinzo, the aged head of the Ushiromiya family. Even though it has already been announced that he has just a few months to live, he's brimming with energy. Though he amassed a vast fortune in the past, he never made any announcements regarding the inheritance, which worries his children. Fix the hours up is 21:28. Like, for you, or for the game? Huh? He's strongly influenced by the West and is a rabid fan of the occult. His study is packed with mysterious grimoires. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. Oh, for you. Okay, gotcha. You couldn't really say that he was having too much fun to stop. Rather, he filled the room with a sense of impatience, or perhaps a sense of impending danger, as though every second wasted was a tragedy. In this sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with the stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Why can't I say odors correctly? To be quite honest, I thought the grandfather died until 5 minutes ago. No, low-key same. I thought he was dead too. Those odors were somehow sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they'd do would be to open a window and ventilate this room. The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. A voice calling "Father" sometimes mingled with the knocks. As Kinzo heaved a deep sigh, he snapped shut the old book in his hands and slammed it on the table. Then he yelled at Kraus, who was still knocking on the door. "Silence! Enough with that racket, you fool! Who told you the door would be opened if you'd but knocked? I'll crucify the imbecile! Do you wish to suffer the same fate?" "Father, this is the day of the family conference, which happens only once a year, is it not? Everyone's gathered down below. Please come out." Kraus called to his father through the door. Kinzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Kraus had no choice but to call to him from the corridor like this. "Molest me not!" "What?" "Just who is this everyone of which you speak? Do you mean the fools trying to drag me out of here? Then kill them all! Tear them apart, using their bodies for firewood, and feed them into the witch's hearth! Put a pot on that hearth to boil the wormwood! Force the imbeciles who dared to try and lure me out of here to drink the broth of the apocalypse! I will soak their dregs in liquor! Ah, where is Genji? Call for Genji! Have my demonic absinthe prepared! The whispering of the green fairy reaches me no longer! Ah, where is Genji? Bring him here! On the other side of the door, Kraus, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. A little delusional, but I guess there's nothing you can do. Yeah, real. Oh! Oh. Alright. Looks like he hates me to the core. My voice doesn't reach him anymore. Kraus shrugged as though saying, "It's no use," and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really expected his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was the duty of the eldest son, he had tried as a formality. "Kinzo-san, your son's daughters and grandchildren have come to see you, have they not? Did you just let them see your face, if only for a short while?" "Shut up! Be silent! You dare to admonish me, Nanjo! I never told anyone to get you! I told them to get Genji! Now call for him immediately! Time is short, and the apostles are already readying their trumpets, so why can't you foolish sheep understand?" Kinzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket nearly expressed his great displeasure. Oh, clearly, not nearly. Clearly. Kinzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open, as if to sing to a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled. "Why? Why is there always something in my way? I would throw it all away. I would offer up everything, and there is only one thing I ask in repayment. Oh, Beatrice, if I could see your smile but one more time, I would plunder the smiles of the earth and offer them all up to you." What is this kid, Tantrum? He's been possessed. "Oh, the commanders of the legions of locusts reap the smiles of the earth. Everything is filthy. Everything is irksome. Why must I suffer this impediment on this most precious of days? Call for Genji!" I have no idea what he's yelling about. He's probably lost his mind by now. Kraus-san, isn't it a bit harsh to say just such a thing of your own father? My father is already dead. There's nothing here but a phantom of what father once was. At any rate, as long as he has no intention of coming out, there's nothing we can do. Kinzo-san. Choking coughs continued to pour from the study. I'm going back downstairs. It would be a waste to let the fruits of Goda's prized cooking talents get any colder. I said the same. It's one of the few things our relatives can look forward to when they come to this house. Kraus spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as though he had wasted time in doing something he knew would be in vain. Genji-san, father is calling for you. Keep him company. Certainly. Dr. Nanjo, let's go eat. If we stay here any longer, this sweet stench will ruin our sense of taste. Without waiting for Nanjo, Kraus went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go and eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Kraus's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, and then let out a deep sigh. Sorry, Genji-san, but please allow me to leave this in your hands. Yes, please leave it to me. Do what you can to avoid giving him alcohol. It's a habit that's far too difficult to break. Is Genji not here yet? Who dares to keep Genji from coming? Ah, where is Genji? Call for Genji! Please, allow me to handle the situation here. Very well. Forgive me. Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave, then knocked on the study door. Master, it's Genji. Genji! Why have you kept me waiting so long? You're alone, I trust? Correct. I am alone. Kinzo returned to his seat in the study and pressed an old-fashioned switch on the table. Obsessed, I swear. Yeah, do you see that portrait? He has one here, too. After a small delay, the heavy sound of the door unlocking could be heard. Kinzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study. Or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some air and ended up scattering things that, to him, were important research materials, leaving him in a terrible mood. Kinzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission, and thereby sealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. If Kinzo was in a bad mood, even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door, unable to even see Kinzo's face. Most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it just wasn't worth the effort to disturb this aging family head, who was impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave his room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants. Genji, my usual. I'm busy. Yes, sir. Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious-looking bottles boasting venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being some ghastly poison. Inside the study, the mysterious collection of books gathered by Kinzo had grown into a mountain. They were bizarre ancient or banned books, all of them either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. But if you tried to call them old books, Kinzo would fly into a rage and say, "Call them grimoires!" There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regards to black magic, like candles suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a certain celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them of a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects or bizarre diagrams of various magic circles. And above all, a sweet, poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside that study, Genji prepared Kinzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex and ornate glass, unless someone first told them it was alcohol. He poured a little into the glass. Then, he placed a cube of sugar in a strangely shaped spoon and poured water from a pitcher over it. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green liquid turned a cloudy white. It was a strange optical illusion, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then, Genji added original flavors Kinzo loved, fine-tuning its taste. There was no recipe. Its success was measured only by Kinzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Genji placed the glass on a tray and walked over to Kinzo. By this time, Kinzo was gazing out the window. Here, master. Thank you. Kinzo had regained his composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence. To allow Kinzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kinzo and to his left, as though he were a living sideboard. He needed his fix, literally. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kinzo held out his glass. There was only a mouthful remaining. It was not a gesture intended to set it upon the tray, but a motion to but a motion to hand the glass over to Genji. Drink, my friend. Your words are too kind for me. No need for ceremony between us. Drink, my friend. Thank you. Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its contents. After that, he gulped it down. I attempted to imitate your concoction, but no matter how hard I try, I cannot replicate its taste. The way you make it is pure relish. Thank you very much. It is the fruit of your guidance, master. Kinzo smiled at his loyal subject, who refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed, as though chuckling at a close friend's old, unshakable habit. We have grown old together. I stopped counting the years long ago. It is entirely thanks to you, master, that I've been able to live like this until today. Kinzo gave a faint smile, as if to say he didn't need any flattery. Until now, you have served me exceedingly well. My sons call me eccentric. The servants that were once many have all quit in fear of me. Only you serve me even now. Your words are more than I deserve. My life will not last much longer. My sons are vultures, lazily waiting for my inheritance to fall into their hands. Kraus is a fool who squanders money like water, who throws away 2 gold coins to obtain 1. And then he has the gall to claim that he's earned money. Eva is a slave to money, who thinks of me as a mere chicken. When I die, she plans to use my bones to make a broth. That dunce Rudolph just wants to fool around with women. Rosa bore the baby of a man who came from nowhere and about whom we know nothing. Jessica is incompetent and uneducated. George has none of what it takes to be a man. Battler is a fool who threw away the honor of the Ushiromiya family. And Maria is obscene to the eye. Why is the Ushiromiya blood so incompetent? Gee, everyone is catching a stray. He hates them all. Is there no one worthy to inherit the glory I built? Of course. I know. This is part of Beatrice's curse. I know it. Ha! You golden witch. Are you trying to take revenge against me in this way? If you want to hate me, then do so. If you want to run away, then run. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. You belong to me. You must always be in my arms. For all my life. You must stay in my birdcage for all eternity, whispering only to me. Beatrice. Why won't you smile back at me? Oh, Beatrice! Oh! After howling, Kinzo choked once again. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this. Thank you, my friend. When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Kinzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing 2 different people, a wild Kinzo and a composed Kinzo, living together inside one body. And so, I have decided. I cannot bear to spend my dimmed remaining years procrastinating like this. If I have one final coin to bet, then I choose to abandon it to the whims of the demon's roulette. The power of magic is always determined by the risk of the gamble. Like visiting a shrine at the hour of the ox in ancient Japanese sorcery, to nail a cursed doll to a tree. Magical power is produced specifically because of the risk that it will be seen within the 7 days the curse takes. The greater the risk, the stronger the magic power will be. Many miracles that happened in myth might be called the crystallization of shocking magic power, with a low probability of occurrence and astronomical risk. That Moses parted the waters of the sea was not a miracle of God. The risk of that desperate situation, cornered by soldiers on the Red Sea shores, weighed upon the scales of slaughter and gave birth to that miraculous magic power. If the same thing occurred again on the same scale, the sea would surely fail to part. After all, Moses was able to magnificently summon a miracle engraved on but one of the countless innumerable results on the roulette of those with power. That is the force that can triumph over astronomical odds. Indeed, good fortune that can grasp miracles is magical power itself. To obtain this mighty power, one must face the risk of despair. Those who possess no magical power may call that desperation rather than a bet. However, people who truly do possess magic power can grasp hold of that miracle and make the enigma come into being.
Meow, meow, meow. Meow. My kitty cat is here. Can I help you? Here. Wanna say hi to chat? Say hi to chat. Say hi. They want you to read, Lucy. Hmm? Say meow. Doesn't want to speak. Right. Ugh. Yes. Hold on, let me close the door. She's leaving.
If that power exists within me, I'll seize that miracle. I'll have a chance at making the wish I devoted my life towards come true. Kinzo looked up to the sky outside the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the skies. If only I were capable of grasping that miracle. Oh, Beatrice. Beatrice. Show me your lovely smile once more. No matter how much time passes, your face does not vanish. I just want to see your smile. That is all. I'll return everything you granted me. I'll return all the glory I've gained since that day. I don't need fortune, prestige, or gold. I'll return everything you gave me. I just want to see your smile. I beg you, Beatrice! Oh! His nonsensical yells became a scream and then a wail. Kinzo slumped to the floor, tearing at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the family head's health is not at its best. He seemed extremely sad to not be able to share lunch with you all now that you've gathered for this event that occurs but once a year. Goda, let the lunch begin. Certainly, I shall begin today's luncheon. 346th simp. F to pay respects, we salute. Dr. Nanjo, is father's condition really that bad? Couldn't he at least have let us see his face? It's more a problem of mood than of physical condition. And for that, there is no medicine I can prescribe. Hey, are we talking about his mood again? You've got to be kidding me. We took time out of our schedules during this darn busy autumn season just to come and find out how he's doing. And now he's... Then you should be happy, Rudolph. Yippee! Hi, Kimono, how are you? You now know how he's doing. Honestly, it would be better for him to not leave that room. Honestly, yeah. You're totally first. Well, according to the Redeem, you are, I guess. Nuh-uh. Gotta press it. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm also pretty good. Or what? Would you rather take my place and try to persuade our ill-humored father to come join us? Are you kidding? Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though Rudolph was willing to be indignant at how self-centered his father was, he wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting. Does it seem like his mood will improve before dinner? Cross-Nissan? I have no idea. If you want to know that, you should ask him directly. Although, I think his mood will improve faster if we don't bother him. Genji-san's the only one who could get grandfather out of a funk. It's pretty pathetic, though, making the servants deal with your own parents' bad mood. Jessica, don't speak out of turn. She'd planned for her complaint to be only heard by her cousins, but it had reached even Krause's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking. If he's as cranky as they make him sound, he can't be that terribly sick, right? I mean, they're saying he's in a bad mood, but not that he's got no energy, which at least proves he's got his wits about him. It's because grandfather has especially strong willpower. However, that doesn't necessarily mean his body will be able to keep up. Since last year, they keep saying that he has 3 months left. If the initial diagnosis was correct, grandfather's been prolonging his life by willpower alone. It's right for us to worry about him. Lunch started with the family head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old, and the brilliant glory with which he had rebuilt the Ushiromiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning the meal with that seat still empty, no one felt that it was odd anymore.
Hello, meow meow. Oh. Cat is so fussy. Sit on my lap.
She does want to read. Or actually, she's eating right now. Maybe she's just hungry. Oh my gosh, my model. The Ushiromiya Family Conference was held once every year on the first weekend of October. If a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect it to be nothing more than a reunion of rarely seen relatives who greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to grandfather's children, and no one in this family was considered an adult until they had met with success in business. So this meeting literally was a conference. She left again. Let me close the door. How much of the fortune was invested? What sort of business was conducted? How much profit was earned? As a result, how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid? Or possibly, how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures? What lessons had they learned, and what could they learn from their mistakes? It seemed that topics like these were discussed very seriously in the past. My dad said that it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently, it used to be a very serious family meeting, where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices, and some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that had become a thing of the past. Now, with everyone pursuing their own business ventures and achieving success, it was becoming more of a normal yearly get-together. This angle reminded me of Family Guy transitions. Very silly for you. Huh. Interesting. I never watched Family Guy. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely stressful. So while it was nothing more than a simple get-together for us grandchildren, it was still a real stomachache for our parents. Oh, you neither? How do you know? The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste more delicious. The phrase, "while the demon is not around, everyone can relax," comes to mind. Oh, TikTok clips, I see. Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting to my father's left is his older brother and Jessica's father, Uncle... this, which is read as Krause. This name sure is easy to read. Krause. Now that we've got used to this string of weird names, our perspective is totally skewed. So Krause doesn't actually seem that bad. Oh my gosh, do we have everybody? No, we're missing one. That's probably Beatrice, or Grandma, can't tell. Ushiromiya Krause, Kinzo's first child. As the oldest of the 4 siblings, he leads the family conference. However, the other siblings think he's trying to get all the inheritance for himself, and this further strains the tensions between them. He's a real estate investor and has put a lot of money into the development of a resort. However, his results have been harshly criticized. It even starts to sound kinda cool. Just like with Aunt Natsuhi, I didn't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He had never been one to chat to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsuhi. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and violent man. If what he said is true, Uncle Kraus used to be very domineering from his position as the oldest sibling, and was despised by all the other siblings. Though, despite that, those siblings all seemed to be chatting happily together. Oh well, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and live apart from each other, their relationships change. That's probably what this was. After all, they all had children of about the same age. By sharing the same family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents began to discuss the exams Jessica and I would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape questions about exams from my father on her left, purposely faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments, not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the end opposite from Kraus and the others. In the very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with a sturdy physique sat facing Kirie-san. This was my first time meeting him. I'd only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. Oh, I guess it's for Nanjo. Yep, okay. Attending physician Nanjo. Kinzo is attending physician and a longtime friend. He once ran a hospital on Niijima, but he turned it over to his son and now enjoys his old age in peace. Now that Kinzo's constant suspicion has reached extraordinary heights, Nanjo is one of the very few people he trusts. Thanks to Nanjo's big-hearted nature, he's been able to continue his friendship with Kinzo despite the latter's tendency to fly into a rage at the slightest provocation. I heard he used to own a huge clinic on a nearby island of Niijima, but he turned it over to his son and began living a life of leisure in his old age. He had known grandfather since the very beginning, when the mansion was first constructed on this island, and had built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's suspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually grandfather's chess partner. I see. That kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, what with his love of all things Western. Nanjo's probably the only person who could enter Rokkenjima despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as he listened to the discussion between Kirie and the other woman, who sat near him. Considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside the Ushiromiya family attend the family conference was a little odd. It made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it'd be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about it, but considering how rich grandfather is, at the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid. And it'll lead to ulcers for everyone. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. There's a good chance they'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference. Still, it's not like it's got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't shown up, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting in that incipience chair is Ushiromiya Kinzo. It really sucks. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got this perfectly normal one himself. You're still hungry? Can you get a snack? If only his name were written Kinzo, but he let him call us Goldsmith or something. I'd totally freak out. As you could probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. I'm one of his grandchildren, not a son, and I haven't seen him since elementary school. Yeah, but these dummies won't set the table up. Oh, tragic. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself, but our parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go convince grandfather to come down seems pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can't really tell grandfather's story without covering that pivotal event back before the Showa era, 1926 through 1989. Until the Meiji, 1868 through 1912, and Taisho, 1912 to 1926 eras, the Ushiromiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double over laughing every day as the money kept rolling in. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of a branch family and had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down the list of people who could inherit inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in the year Taisho 12, 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushiromiya family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Ushiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant.
Yes, you see? Can I help you?
Alright, well. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Ushiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kinzo in his branch family. In Kinzo's later reminiscences, he referred to this as good fortune, so great that it overturned fate. With that, grandfather's boring everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the dying Ushiromiya family, which had lost nearly all of its wealth. However, just because he had been entrusted with this task didn't mean he could accomplish it. Apparently, those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all the family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails, as collateral, in order to borrow a massive amount of money. He still has some hair. Must have grown back. Once he built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping onto a neighboring bike, and then another one. Just like some crazy street performance. Ah, but everyone thought grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of powerful connections with the occupying forces. Hairless people... hairless cats are so good. I love hairless cats. I want one someday. Maybe two. At the time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information, not luck, saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about emergency demands that would be made for the Korean War. No, it was more than that. He must have predicted those emergency demands from the very beginning, when he started investing his money. The history books make it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off of the emergency demands during the Korean War, but that isn't actually true. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. I'm pretty sure this all happened during the year Showa 25, 1950 or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in Taisho 13, 1924, so that means grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Ushiromiya family in only about 20 years to a level even higher than it had ever been before. With that, you'd think he'd revive the main family in Odawara, but for some reason, he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something that you can ordinarily do today. However, grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property, then tossed that project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and having the sponsorship of the GHQ meant that nobody could oppose him. From what I've heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered this land to him practically for free. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinzo to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under-the-table bribes did their work well. In the end, the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune in his own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was obsessed with all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. He was able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built on the island soon after. This mansion, in fact. Grandfather, with his love of the Western style, made this once uninhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams, overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, and a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. This would be a dream come true for any boy. After that, he made good use of his huge fortune, becoming a large stockholder in the extremely stable iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. Boy, that is a nice dream for real. This kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least, that is how they're portrayed after the fact. But Grandfather denies all of that, repeatedly saying that he was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric when locked up alone on an island where all his dreams are made real. But a private island these days don't have good track records, this is true! I feel like maintaining an island is also a lot of work. Everyone knows that he's had a Western obsession from the start. None of our parents really know when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love of black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? Or did his miraculous stretch of good luck while reviving his family cause him to feel a mysterious power in himself? At some point, Grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his study up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. Yeah, like Mr. Beast, for example, every single island he had is abandoned now. Dang, that's tough. From what I've heard, those around him warmly watched over him, figuring that someone who had achieved success in life had a right to do as he pleased. But there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking, that's disgusting, I don't want to get involved. Anyway, that agitated period was an age of big gambles, with both opportunities and risks. Let's say Grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like a chess piece from mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere, happily talking behind his boss's back. No, not in a fancy dining hall like this. More like at a table in some bar. And again, I'll bet this family conference would be a whole lot more relaxing if that were the case. Okay, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch. I'm already convinced by that sashimi salad appetizer. Gora-san's an excellent chef. Plus, these fish were all caught in the adjacent seas, weren't they? They're totally different from the sashimi you'd get at the supermarket. Hey, quit it, meddler. Your upbringing will be exposed. Everyone let out a big laugh. Darn it, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs. I've eaten at many unusual places because of work, but this stands right up there with the best of them. I'd be willing to bet Gora-san used to be pretty well known in those circles. Well, I don't know the details, but stuff got complicated at the long-standing hotel he used to work at, what with them opening a new establishment with the same name and breaking into factions or whatever it was. Sorry, I want to watch more, but it's getting late. You read really nicely, and I wish you a wonderful time. Bye-bye, stay safe. Hopefully I can make it next time. Thank you so much for coming, and for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hopefully I can see you again next time. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll probably be ending once I hit a good stopping point anyway, because my voice do be dying. In the middle of all that, he was apparently forced to retire. At that time, Mom just happened to be sending out job offers for a servant. As Goda removed the empty plates, he began to recount his own bumpy past without losing his smile. The world is a difficult place. However, thanks to the madam, I was given a chance to display my skills as a chef once again, this time for the Ushiromiya family. Although I enjoy experiencing the smiles of a larger number of people, I also find it quite entertaining to perform more delicate work that can please the limited number of those who have employed me. All this is thanks to the opportunity given to me by the madam. Goda-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsuhi. That's because you were the most talented of the applicants. The decision was purely objective, not based on personal feelings, so there's no need to thank me. Dang. Why does Aunt Natsuki always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might leave a different impression. Shannon-chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a serving cart. Please excuse us. Now then, let us move on to today's dessert. Goda-san and the others laid the beautifully adorned dessert out in front of us all. I guess it's true when they say you have another stomach for dessert. I thought I'd already filled up on delicious food, but as soon as I laid eyes on that dessert, my stomach started yelling, "More!" I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. Normally, during a high-class meal like this, you're supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to strict rules like that, so she got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Aunt Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, Now, it's okay. Thank you for the hydrate and stretch."
This part's sour. This part's sour. Battler, this one's no good.
You've been practicing Voltorb flip? Oh my gosh, how's it going?
Ugh.
Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauces. Tiny crown, I love tiny hats. Yes, it's very cute. It's going, yeah? Are you prepared? What? Some are good and some bad? Okay, I'll give it a go. Generational fumble by me. No, you can do it, Kimono. I believe in you. Apparently, one sauce was sweet and the other sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in and licked it. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I'd have suspected lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us. Shannon-chan, what kind of sauce is this sour stuff? Maybe it's Dr. Pepper? Is Dr. Pepper red? I thought it was the same color as, like, cola. Shannon-chan hesitated. Maybe her job was just to set the table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seems pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. The label is red, so close enough. That's fair. Or did they use some ingredient that we'd be better off not knowing about? While Aunt Natsuki made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache, Kumasawa-san, who was setting the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle. What do you think we made it out of? It's blood! It could be.
It'll shock you.
Huh? I don't have a clue. Wait a sec, Kumasawa-ba-san? That laugh's pretty creepy. So, what is it? Just turns into a cannibal story? I mean, it could happen. Anything could happen.
Don't tell anyone, okay? Listen very carefully.
Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught. Jessica, George Aniki, and of course, Maria also put their ears closer.
Ugh. What? What? Quickly! Quickly! You see, the sour part is made from juice squeezed from a mackerel.
What? Mackerel? That's crazy, we all thought, horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely.
Mackerels are sour. This is what comes out when you squeeze them.
But I have a mackerel allergy, falls over and dies. Oh no. How tragic. When Maria started clamoring that mackerel were sour, the adults were unable to contain their laughter. Only Aunt Rosa, her face red, whispered to Maria that mackerel is sour only once prepared as shimesaba. Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me too in all sorts of ways when I was young. The most lethal has gotta be that one. Those flimsy black things are Chinese dishes. They're kikurage mushrooms. She told me they were penguin meat, and I went all around the school like a idiot telling everyone, didn't I? Kumasawa ba-chan, you sure haven't changed. You know Maria's gonna believe it now, right?
It's just a joke. Now Goda-san is going to tell us what the sauce really is, won't he?
Goda looked a little put off about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason. But after clearing his throat once more, he introduced the dessert to us. Well then, allow me to introduce our dessert. After seeing how much you all enjoyed the rose garden earlier today, I finished this panna cotta in a rose garden style. Rose petals scattered across were selected just now from that very rose garden. The sauce is a combination of 2 reds, strawberry and rose hips. Please enjoy this mixture of the strawberry's sweetness and the rose hips' sourness. Furthermore, the rose petals are merely decorative, so please avoid them while you eat. With that said, please enjoy. Whoa. Man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading the detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. As Goda-san elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously, should you call him subtle or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in front of the rose garden earlier today, he displayed an incredible and timely awareness by just adding a few rose petals from that garden. This combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you'd get used to it and bored halfway through. But if you reached the sour sauce at that point, you'd get a really vivid taste. And then, once you returned to the sweet sauce, all the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with an enjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of our seats, someone praised the taste in his presentation. How is it, madam? Splendid, as always. It's worthy of entertaining our guests. I am most grateful for your words. Madam, did you know? I've heard that rosehip has the ability to cure headaches. I thought that you in particular would appreciate it, so I had it specially prepared. Is that so? Thank you. See, didn't I tell you, Natsuhime-san? Rosehip is great for headaches. So it seems. I do hope it actually helps. Ha! Goda-san, I love ya! Hey, later on, why don't you tell me how they're treating you? Or if you can't, just let me know what sort of salary you'd like. Having your talent confined to the small island is sacrilege to humanity's cooking culture. What do you think about working your craft for my company and delighting all of our customers? Hideyoshi-san, are you trying to steal away our Goda? Now that won't do at all. We'd better start treating Goda better, or he'll get snatched up. Yes, you really should. If you don't, someone's gonna grab him and you'll be stuck with 3 meals of Kumasawa-style mackerel cooking a day, won't you?
That's harsh. It seems someone's holding a grudge against me.
Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that our parents had long since gotten used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had precious nutritional value, which could slow aging, making people smarter and more. Supposedly, while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it helped prevent aging on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory.
In that case, if you'll excuse me, prepare yourself for tonight's dinner. I'll be cooking plenty of mackerel dishes for you all, so you'd better look forward to it.
We sure will. Can't wait to get all puckered up from tonight's shime-saba. That sounds wonderful. I wonder if they'll be serving any good Japanese sake.
Oh, we certainly will. Haven't you heard of Rokkenjima's famous mackerel shochu?
Kumasawa-san, together with Shannon-chan, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Goda-san, who looked like his show had been totally stolen, explain in a serious voice that we would be having calf steak for dinner. Kumasawa-san? Thanks for doing that back there. As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply.
I haven't done anything that requires thanks.
Kumasawa may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Battler had asked about the dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard pressed for a response, was always suffering because of this small weakness. If only Shannon had a little of the craftiness she needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Goda, her life would have been a bit easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature, her inability to gloss over a mistake and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come to her rescue. I just heard from Genji-san that there would be a change in the afternoon shifts. I believe you were given a break until this evening. I'm jealous. Huh? Oh, sorry. I haven't checked the shift chart yet.
Ah yes, I was thinking I might start cooking some mackerel in the oven. If you don't mind, I would be happy if you would help out a bit before your break.
Yes, I would be delighted to help. To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants. I think we're gonna stop here for today, though. My voice, it hurty. How do I save? Yes. Alrighty. I think that'll be it for today. I'm gonna go take a nap. So thank you guys so much for coming. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!